Mystery Active Blind Frog Ranch. Long shadows stretched over the dry Utah landscape as the sun began to fall behind the Uinta Mountains. The sky glowed in bands of fire, streaked with crimson and ochre, the air cooling quickly with the approach of night. Blind Frog Ranch, nestled amid rugged terrain and whispering cottonwoods, stood in stark silhouette, a lone outpost in a land laced with secrets. The ranch had always been a place of mystery. Locals muttered about ancient curses and buried treasure. Strange lights in the sky and sudden, inexplicable equipment failures were just part of the daily fabric for those who dared work the land. But what happened that July evening would rattle even the most skeptical of the team. Duane Ollinger, owner and operator, had returned early from a supply run. The gravel crunched under the wheels of his truck as he pulled in, eyes narrowing toward the darkened barn. The motion detection lights on the south fence were flickering, as if struggling against a short circuit or something worse. It wasn't the first time the sensors had gone haywire, but they had just been replaced the week before. The rest of the crew had called it a day. The excavation at Shaft 2 halted after a power failure. A large bore drill sat idle, surrounded by half-dug trenches and topped equipment. Everything should have been silent, but it wasn't. A faint thud echoed from inside the barn. Not the sound of settling wood or creaking hinges, something heavier, deliberate. Duane killed the headlights and sat motionless, one hand resting on the steering wheel, the other gripping his flashlight. The beam cut through the dusk as he stepped out, boots crunching softly on gravel. Inside the barn, the air was still, yet charged. Dust particles danced in the flashlight's beam like flecks of gold. The smell of oil, aged leather, and dry hay filled the space. Along the far wall, a section of shelves had been disturbed. Tools were missing. A coil of wire lay unspooled on the ground, as if someone had been interrupted mid-task. The floor creaked beneath his boots as he moved closer. A deep gouge in the dirt caught his eye. Boot prints, uneven and wide-set. Someone had been here. Recently. The security cameras, mounted high in each corner of the barn, should have caught everything. Duane climbed the loft ladder to the camera console, powered by a dedicated battery system. The screen was blank, not just offline, wiped. The hard drive was missing entirely, the casing hanging open like a wound. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling the cottonwoods and sending a low moan across the landscape. In the distance, a floodlight near Shaft 1 flickered, then died. The next morning, the crew returned to find Duane already at work, tracing the perimeter of the property. A full sweep yielded no sign of forced entry, no broken fences or tire tracks. But something was off. At the mouth of Shaft 2, fresh earth had been disturbed. The tops covering the drill rig were folded, not tossed. Someone had taken great care to make it seem untouched. Further down, near the edge of the marsh, Eric, one of the field techs, discovered a small object half buried in mud, a strange metal fragment. It wasn't rusted like the old mining debris scattered across the ranch. Instead, it gleamed faintly, with a honeycomb texture along one side. Analysis later revealed it to be an unknown alloy, not matching anything in local databases. Theories flew: aerospace scrap, military tech, or something more exotic. That evening, a storm rolled in from the west. Lightning carved the sky in jagged arcs as rain lashed against the structures. The weather station went offline for 2 full minutes. When it returned, its data logs showed a sudden spike in electromagnetic activity, enough to fry small electronics. But no thunder followed the flashdown in the utility shed. Every compass had spun wild for over 90 seconds. The third night, the intruder returned. This time, They left a message. One of the ground sensors near the entrance was triggered at 2:17 a.m. Eric, sleeping in a trailer nearby, grabbed his thermal scope and sprinted toward the alert. What he saw chilled him. A heat signature, humanoid, tall, unusually slender, walked slowly along the ridge line, then vanished behind a cluster of rocks. Eric followed, but found nothing. Just the wind and a faint humming sound that faded as he approached. In the morning, a set of cryptic symbols had been carved into the soft bark of an aspen tree near the base camp. Deep, precise, and arranged in a tight circle. No one recognized the script. A botanist later confirmed the cuts had been made with extreme accuracy, perhaps using a laser or blade sharper than any conventional tool. By the end of the week, the crew was on edge. Animals near the ranch behaved strangely. Horses refused to approach the stream, dogs growled at empty space, and birds abandoned their nests. Duane decided to bring in a geophysicist with experience in magnetic anomalies. Penetrating radar. The team scanned the area around Shaft 2. What they found stunned them. Beneath the surface, at a depth of nearly 50 feet, was a rectangular void, unnaturally symmetrical. Buried stone or metal, with defined edges and corners. It didn't match the surrounding geology. There were no known historical records of structures at that depth, and yet it was there. Excavation began in earnest, but strange phenomena continued to plague the site. Tools vanished from locked boxes. Cables shorted with no visible damage. Cameras recorded only static when pointed toward the void. Late one night, as Duane reviewed footage from a drone flyover, he paused on a single frame. Just one. A figure stood at the edge of the excavation site. Thin, pale, and motionless. The next frame, it was gone. The footage before and after showed no sign of approach or retreat, no footsteps. No shadows. No trace. Then came the radio interference. Short bursts of static, rhythmic, and patterned. The sequence repeated every few hours. Eric ran it through audio analysis software and discovered a repeating signal. Binary in form, not random. The message translated to a set of GPS coordinates pointing to a canyon 2 miles from the ranch. The crew followed it. There, hidden in a crevice just wide enough for one person to slip through, they discovered an old mining tunnel, long forgotten. Inside, buried beneath rubble and rotting timbers, were relics. Not gold or silver, but maps, diagrams, and journals. Pages of symbols matching those carved into the aspen tree. One journal spoke of visitors beneath the earth and a vault sealed in time. It warned of a structure buried in the valley floor, older than the mine itself. And at the bottom of the last page, a rough sketch of Blind Frog Ranch. With a single phrase in smeared ink, "They were here before us." Back at the ranch, the void beneath Shaft 2 began to collapse. The ground shook for 30 seconds. When the dust cleared, the rectangular anomaly was gone, filled with loose debris and water. No one could explain it. No one tried. Weeks later, after the team had dispersed and silence reclaimed the land, a single trail camera triggered one last time. It captured a still image. The barn door stood open, the shadows deep and long. In the center of the frame, standing in the dust where no one should have been, was the intruder, face obscured, eyes glowing faintly, watching, then nothing. No footprints, no signal. Just the lingering question that would haunt every member of the crew. What did they find at Blind Frog Ranch, and who else was searching for it? The wind swept low across Blind Frog Ranch, carrying with it the dry scent of desert sage and the ancient silence of the Uinta Basin. Dust rolled off the canyon ridges like soft smoke, drifting down over the rusted remnants of mining days gone by. The ranch sat nestled between jagged cliffs and winding creeks, land soaked in whispers and half-buried truths. A place where stories clung to the rocks, and time seemed to stutter, stall, and repeat. For years, the ranch had been a site of excavation, research, and unexplained phenomena. The team who worked there, part scientist, part treasure hunter, had unearthed everything from rare minerals to anomalous metals. Yet, despite their efforts, the land refused to yield its deepest secrets. Every answer uncovered only led to more questions, more strange disruptions, and more recently, the sense that someone, or something, was watching. It began with a breach in the perimeter fence. The wire, reinforced with infrared sensors, was found sliced cleanly at 2 points. No tracks in the dirt. No marks from cutters. The gap looked almost melted, the edges curling away as if subjected to extreme heat. Security footage captured nothing. The timestamp simply blinked through 2 minutes of static before resuming as if nothing had occurred. The next day, toolboxes were discovered rearranged. Not stolen, just opened, inspected, and carefully closed again. Equipment tags had been peeled off, only to be stuck back in the wrong places. Flashlights were emptied of batteries. A measuring tape was found extended across a corridor in the main shed, as if someone had been sizing the space. The crew chalked it up to an animal or a prank. But unease settled over them like desert dust, quiet, ever-present, impossible to brush off.